You rarely come across stories that have a prequel in Manhwa, or are even in the same world. And when you do, most of the time they're usually gold. For example, Sweet Home and Shotgun Boy. Both of them are in the same world and both are manhwas that are always talked about. The two manhwas that I'll be talking about are similar to those in that regard. Right, let's talk about the first one. When you hear immortality in anime or manhwa, you are usually always thinking of overpowered characters. And let's be honest with ourselves, who doesn't like those type of characters? The Epic of Gilgamesh definitely has overpowered characters, but it's not an overpowered fantasy because it balances them out with other overpowered characters, so the story doesn't fall flat like all the other overpowered fantasy. The story is about an immortal being supposedly named Gilgamesh, but in the manhwa he decides to call himself Ramen. One day, Telidia, I hope I'm saying the name correct, a knight in training in the order, gets kicked out for breaking too many swords and eating way too much. On her way out of the city, when she was nagging outside for being kicked out, she witnesses a group of robbers attacking an old man, and rashly decides to help him. But she was a second too late. But luckily, the old man didn't need saving at all. After the old man saw Telidia, an old memory of someone that looked very, very similar popped up. Without even a second to think, Telidia suddenly falls unconscious, and then the old man discovers that she has a very, very rare disease. So he decides to pay her for her efforts and cure her with his old knowledge that's locked up somewhere. And that's where the story begins. The sequel of the story, which was called Ember Knight, is as equally, maybe even better than the Epic of Gilgamesh. And it kicks off right after the other one. The main character is different, but the world is still the same. There'll also be recurring characters that you already saw in the Epic of Gilgamesh. Without spoiling too much about the first story, the Ember Knight is about two brothers that looked alike. One called Nagyan and the other called Najin. Probably butchered the names, but who cares? One day a group of people come and kill the main character's brother for unknown reasons. The main character, Nagyan, which is awfully hated by a lot of people, basically steals his brother's identity and vows revenge. But the problem with that is that even though the brothers looked alike, they did not have the same ability nor strength. Nagyan's brother was way stronger than him. So Nagyan was not very powerful, but he was very smart. So to make up for his weakness, he decides to get stronger by the time he finishes his training as a knight. Now when I read these stories, they actually hooked me up right from the beginning. The world is very interesting, the art might not be the best for the Epic of Gilgamesh, but Ember Knight has pretty good art. The characters are unique and memorable, and it kind of has the same vibe as Player, the manhwa I reviewed before, as in the characters are very well developed throughout the whole story. It has really good lore, and you can literally binge the first story because the Epic of Gilgamesh is completely finished, and I think has around like 130 chapters or something. But the Ember Knight is still ongoing with around 80 chapters. I think if you like Player or Barbarian Quest, then you definitely love this manhwa. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you.